Where do sea elves store their money? In the riverbank. What's going on, YouTube? Our opening trivia question for today is, it's not going to be something you can Google, it's another Sell Me On. Sell me on what is the best ESO in-game event. And obviously our question trivia from last week will now also be pinned for the winner, so check out last week's video to see who won. But as always, we are inside the hollow city of Cold Harbor to start off here, and we start with Zanil, who is crowded by a plethora of fans, and we start with a woolly mammoth. I actually love these little guys. You can put them on shelves inside your home. It's just a nice little fella to have. Then we have a brand new item, which is a gigantic square. Where does that go? The square hole. Then we have a gateway city. If your city gateway is this big, there's a reason why the orcs never really advanced very far technologically, but it does gain some pretty good value. It goes up to 9,000 gold average. We also have the stable, which I will say, yes, it's probably the most appetizing to be like, oh, Jake, this goes from 150k to 208k. You know, you're thinking like one of those, you know, profit resellers who scalps Pokemon cards here. Just remember that, like Ascended Heroes, or whatever Pokemon set came out that didn't do very well, it's not always easy to sell these in great quantity. So yes, you could buy 10 of these and expect, you know, a 50k profit, but it's going to take you time to sell them. That's why I like to buy littler items, not this wagon, obviously, because it loses money, but you buy some of these murals, for example. It's got Malakath on it. People love Malakath. Buy a sarcophagus. Look at this. Also doubles in value. Look at this. This stone base gains 50% in value. This head, who looks more like Maroon's Dagon from Oblivion than he does an Orsinium head, but set that to the side. Buy one of these. This guy almost doubles in value. These guys are so popular that I saw a Facebook post looking for these bad boys. Buy a couple of these guys. You know, maybe you might skip on the tent unless you plan to use it for your own home, but it's still a really cool little item if you're trying to make an orc, you know, looking area. And then we have a pedestal that also doubles in value. So all of this to say, if you want to sell things in ESO, it's better to get a diversity of items that will do well. As far as the new item, I think it's okay. It'll probably be about like 4,500 gold, or 4,500 gold, I would say, is probably where it's going to land. It's a building block that you could build with, but it's also not large enough to where, you know, a lot of people are going to be putting in their large homes, because it's going to take up an entire, you know, slot for only, you know, covering a big area, you know, not a big enough area, excuse me, because there are structures that are bigger, but it is very affordable. And it, you know, with ZOS increasing the furnishing limit for a lot of houses, I could see this getting some widespread appeal. And then obviously everything else that gains value, this item, this one, this one, this one, this one, maybe not this one, and then this one. These are all just going to be good if you want to get a nice little portfolio of items to resell in the future. These will most definitely be relatively easy to sell, because orc stuff is pretty decent. It's just not always the fastest moving items on the market. And next up, we're inside the Northern High Rock Gate inside of Cyrodiil. If you ever want to find more information on these vendors' location, ESOhelper.com. That way we can focus just on the meat and potatoes, what's in these bad boys. Also, stop on by later on Twitch. I believe drops are still active, so if you want some Twitch drops, I'll be live at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And restart with Winter's Respite. Now, this is from Western Skyrim, and it is an overland set, so obviously you can tell because it's item value. You could buy and sell this item. Mag recovery, mag, while in combat, casting an ability that leaves an area of effect on the ground will create a circle of healing frost for 10 seconds, which, by the way, looks pretty cool. You and your group members restore 4115 health every 2 seconds while inside the circle. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds, and it will scale off your maximum magicka or stamina. So this is oddly a very divisive set, because as far as healing goes, this is actually a pretty good healing set. Now, why am I putting healing in quotation marks? Well, generally, you don't need sets to give you a lot of healing. That might sound weird, Jake. There's a whole archetype called healing. You're going to tell me that, what are the tanks not tank things? You know, what does this mean? Well, what it means is that generally the healers are focused, yes, on keeping you alive. That's very essential to dealing damage per second. Unless you're certain group members named Brandon, David, or Travis, then sometimes you being dead and being alive is the same damage output. But for the majority of players, keeping them alive is helpful, but also giving them buffs and things is also actually more impactful, because then instead of having these prolonged fights, by giving people, you know, different buffs and things that increase their crit damage, normal damage, weapon and spell damage, whatever. They kill things faster. The tank doesn't need to tank as much. The healers don't need to heal as much. So as far as straight healing, this set is great. But the problem is you're really never going to see this used in any sort of PvE content, even though when it comes to its tooltip and its ability to max out, it's actually relatively easy to get a lot of healing effect from this set. Interestingly, the people that generally use this set are usually more so in the PvP realm, just because stacking healing is a lot better there, and there is an archetype by stacking Maximum Magicka is a lot easier for PvP. There are whole mythics, you know, dedicated to it. Death Dealer's Feet, you know, is the one that comes to mind. So generally, even though this is a healing set that people would kind of think more of as a support set, it usually falls into a better PvP archetype. Obviously, keeping your, you know, teammates alive for PvE is helpful, but it doesn't really materialize into any sort of meta build combo for it being really good at keeping your teammates alive. So as far as PvE, I would give it a 7. It's still a good set. It's arguably good. You're not really going to see it at any sort of great or fantastic or best in slot healing builds, in my opinion. For PvP, I'm going to give it a little bit higher. I'm going to say it's a great healing set. I'm going to give it an 8. To give it a one point higher. Next up, we have Darlek Bray, which comes from Overland Elsewhere. Now, if you're looking for a good set from Elsewhere, unfortunately, you're going to need to look other places. Get it? Look elsewhere. But I will say this does have a pretty niche, fun utilization. So it gives you mag recovery, stam recovery, reduce the radius you can be detected while sneaking by 2 meters, and reduce the cost of your sneak by 10%. Also, thank you, Jaren, for the YouTube sub, just in case you ever see this. And it's 5-piece while you're crouching and not bracing. You restore 670 magicka and stamina and heal 804 health every second. So you might think, what is the actual utilization I could use this for? Well, it actually has a pretty impactful one coming up with the brand new ESO upgraded Thieves Guild storyline that we know is going to take place next season, Season 1. There's a really good chance that you could really use this as a 4-piece set. Now, as far as combining all of the sets together that would be very impactful, I would encourage you to do a 5-piece of Night Mother's Embrace, 4-piece of Darlek, and then 3-piece Night Terror. That is how you can get the majority of what you need when it comes to getting all of that stealth detection. Now, there are obviously ways you could cut it for one of the mythics, like, you know, the Grey Fox's Cowl, or Shadow Queen's Cowl, I think is what it's called in this game, is a great mythic that also has a lot of utility as well. But being able to reduce your detection radius just is a really fun little sneaky build. Obviously, you're maxing out stealth detection is not going to be good for anything other than PvE, you know, stealing or heists or like Dark Brotherhood stuff. So I'm going to give it a niche out of 10, because to say that this is the best in slot stealth detection PvE Thieves Guild and Dark Brotherhood setup is a bit odd, and I don't think it would make the title like, oh, the meta Dark Brotherhood set's in store, guys. You'd be like, the what? The meta heist build is in store, fellas. So obviously that would be a little bit too niche for the title of this video, so I'm going to give it a niche out of 10. But it is fun if you combine it with those 2 other sets. Night Mother's, Darlek, and Night Terror all combined together to make you almost impossible for the NPCs to detect you. Next up from Fang Lair is Trappings of Invigoration. Now, this gives you stam recovery, max stam recovery. When you cast an ability that costs resources while under 25% stamina, you restore a ton of stamina, but it can only occur once every 45 seconds. Yes, this is arguably a bad set because it's not doing anything very helpful for you. Yes, resource recovery is good, but if you were to break down how much resource recovery you're actually getting over a 45-second period, you'd be better off just using a sustain set. Arguably one, too, that would also give you mag recovery, like Roxas or Wretched. So sets like this, not very good. I'm going to give it a 5. Yes, stamina is a helpful resource, but a full 5-piece set for this, it ain't it, especially with a 45-second cooldown. Next up, we have Ulfanor. Now, this one also comes from Fang Lair, which is kind of funny. It gives you health, and it gives you a 3-piece of mag and stam recovery, a 4-piece of healing taken, and a 5-piece of increase the magicka or stamina your heavy attacks restore by 30%. So this is in a set that it's kind of odd, because I look at a set like this and I think to myself, wow, this could be good. But I also sometimes look at this set and I think, why would I run this versus Wretched or versus Roxas. That being said, though, it's almost good. And as you know, we've seen the resurgence of things like the Dragon Knight, which are, being up close and personal, big old heavy attack swings. It would be helpful to get a lot of magicka or stamina. Your heavy attacks restore by 30%. Like, that is a helpful bonus that they would be receiving, and a 3-piece of giving mag and stam recovery is also generous as well too, as you rarely see a dual 3-piece set bonus. So I'm going to give it an 8. I don't think it breaks anywhere near the meta staples that we use for PvP, but if somebody said, hey, I'm running, all the other meta staples, and I also threw on Ulfnor's Favor from Fang Lair as my sustain set, I'd be like, yeah, that's a great pick. I mean, I wouldn't personally run it. I would probably pick a 9 or a 10 out of 10 set, but I mean, some people prefer to run some 8s and see how they feel for them. Next up, we're inside the Imperial City Sewers for one of the best one-piece sets, in my opinion. If you just need a little more stam and mag recovery, this is one of the best options. As a 2-piece, you basically need to whip out an abacus here to fully understand what's going on. Buckle in on dealing area direct damage. You mark a target for 6 seconds. Every 2 seconds after, an explosive scamp is spawned nearby and detonates after 1 second, dealing 1905 magic damage to up to 6 enemies within 4 meters, and applying minor timidity for 10 seconds, draining their ultimate by 1 every 1.5 seconds. Each explosive scamp, however, deals 100% increased damage, but then this effect can't occur for another 25 seconds. So you might think to yourself, wow, Jake, this is a lot of words. How impactful is this set? Not impactful at all. So for those of you who don't know, when I first made my Green Goblin character, I tried to make him thematic to the sets, and I thought, wow, spawning explosive scamps that deal shenanigans, surely this is hilarious, and it will be somewhat impactful. Like, nobody's gonna be like, what is happening? I'm getting scamps thrown at me. And I learned 2 things. 1, the longer the text, usually the worse the effect. And 2, I also learned that 25 seconds for a cooldown is ridiculous. And 3, people just don't, when they see bad things come at them, they just move away from them, or they block them, and then your cool effect goes away. So those of you who think that I test a lot of ESO sets, I do, even the terrible ones. I would give this set a 5. I think it's average. I mean, as a 1-piece, I would give this like an 8 or a 9. You could pair this, with a mythic as 2 5-piece, this 1 piece of recovery, and then a mythic. That's actually pretty good. As a 2-piece, unless you want to make, Delibird from Pokemon and throw magical scamps at people, you're really in the wrong realm for your 2-piece set. Next up, we have the Marsalok set. Now, this is not going to be as controversial as the previous one. Do not worry. Also, I will give you 3 guesses where this drops from. If you guessed the lair of the Arm Cops, you were close. It was lair of Marsalok. So as a 1-piece, it gives you just straight stam. Then as a 2-piece, when you deal damage with a melee heavy attack, you spawn a Cone of Corruption, dealing 7840 disease damage to enemies over 4 seconds. However, this damage is increased by 10% for each negative effect the enemies have, up to a maximum of 300%. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. It's actually crazy to me that this has a better cooldown than mysterious exploding scamps. So the devs clearly realized that the explosive party scamps were actually too OP, but Lair of Marsalok's Arm Cops was completely balanced. All of this to say, this is an extremely popular PvP set. You can imagine, especially in the current meta, with people, doing all sorts of area of effects and all sorts of bad, things stacking on people as they kind of just meander into PvP, either in Battlegrounds, because it's not just your negative effects that are going on people, it's all of the negative effects. So this set is just always good value, and it also has worked like a great execute. Being able to finish people off with a melee heavy attack not only is great for your rotation to restore resources to you, you could see how it really cranks out a lot of damage here. So I love Lair of Marsalok. I used to use it on a Stam Sork, and I think if you're a dragon right now, this is one of the sets to consider. The only downside is that there's just so many sets to consider as a Dragon Knight that it's hard to know how you want to actually operate. Do you want to focus on mythics, monster sets, 5 pieces? You know, do you want to use the Marking Ring, you know, to go crazy? You want to use Saint Seducer, the Monomyth? There's so many cool archetypes that you could go for PvP that Marsalok is one of them. I would give it a 10. I think it's a low 10, which is weird because I could say it's like a 9.5. But if you were to go into Cyrodiil right now, you're going to see a decent chunk of Marsalok, and it's going to be exceptionally effective. It's one of those sets that people build around. It might not be as flary as some of the sets that we see right now, like the Monomyth, where everyone's just cranking out crazy amounts of crit damage. But when it comes to, you know, to executing people and dealing a lot of damage to people as they get stacked up negative effects on them, it is second to none. But everyone, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. We will be back at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if you want to talk more about these sets, how you can build different characters for yourself. We're going to try to get through our Kill 1000 Foes Tamriel Tome also as we do it. And there are drops enabled, so stop on by for some ESO drops. I believe you'll get yourself some trade bars and an XP scroll, potentially some other things also. So thank you guys so much again for watching. Hopefully I'll see you at 9:30. If not, I'll catch you guys later because we got more videos coming, because as you've seen, there's just so much ESO content coming out, information from season 0, 1, and 2. So stick on by for that, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.